favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Please limit your questions at this time to resolutions under new business on this agenda. As a matter of fairness, you are asked to limit your questions to no more than one, and your remarks to no longer than 3. If you are here representing a group, please identify yourself, the group, and your position in the group. If you are here as an individual, please give us your name and address. This section of public participation will be limited to 15 minutes. Yes.
I'd like to make a statement. Sue Dorsa, President,
I
Mahwah
think
BoE
it has to be in the
Meeting.
form of a question, please.
I'm sorry?
It has to be in the form of a question on the agenda.
I'm not sure what you mean, Trish.
It has to refer to something that's already on the agenda on this portion of the open public.
It has to be about the executive part that you just went. That's the only thing that's occurred.
No, on anything that's actually on this agenda.
Yes.
Okay, you have a question about it, or
I have a statement I'd like to read.
is it about something on this agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
The principal, superintendent, and Board of Ed president all spoke on opening day about the success of our schools. They congratulated the staff for making that success possible, and we agree. The staff in our district go above and beyond their contractual duties to ensure all children get the best education possible. This success, however, comes with a price that each MEA member pays. We give up personal time and vacation time with family and loved ones to ensure classrooms are set up, lesson plans are done, grade exams, communicate with parents, just to name a few. We do this willingly. We came into this profession because teaching is a calling. It's a special calling, and not everyone can do it. We mold the future each day in our classrooms. The demands of our time from administration have increased tremendously. We're constantly being asked to do more and give more. And as we do more and give more, we are doing so with less. The union leaders negotiated in good faith over the course of the 2013-14 school year. And even on the last day of the contract, the last day of school, the Board of Ed would not or could not reconcile our differences. The consequences of your actions have caused a decline in staff morale and a growing resentment to this body. That being said, the MEA is an association of dedicated professionals who will continue to do their job to the best of their collective abilities. However, on behalf of the MEA, I strongly urge you to do everything in your power to settle this contract so both parties can get back to the business of educating students in an environment that's conducive to learning. Thank you.
Evelyn Slockbauer, 43 Thunderhead Place. I'm assuming that you're going to be speaking about the bids under the Finance and Facilities project status update?
No, actually we're not going to be commenting under that at all. So if you just, if that question isn't on the agenda.
Okay, what will you be discussing under the facilities?
I don't believe they've had a meeting. Yes, if you would, please.
Mrs. Slockbauer, I will be commenting about the facilities at the end of my superintendent's
thank you
report,
very
which I
much.
believe is addressing your question.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I'd just like to bring to the attention that the low bid for this facility was $6.6 million. Okay? The estimated construction cost was $3.7 million. Over the last 3 years, there was excess revenue of over $2 million each year put into our capital reserve account. I believe that the teachers shouldn't be suffering and not getting paid well to put excess money into this account for some project that's not even necessary. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm Mary Ellen Reed,
On opening day last week, Mrs. Shada praised the Mahwah school teachers who taught her children and empowered them with the knowledge and skills they need to succeed in their future endeavors. On behalf of the teachers, I'd like to say thank you for that compliment. However, my question is, why is the board now denying these very same teachers a fair and reasonable contract? Do we not deserve one?
I know. Yes.
Hi, my name is Sharon Javer. I'm a resident here at 191 Carlo Place in Mahwah. Going back to what Evelyn was saying, I've been following what's been going on in the paper regarding the proposed athletic facility. And I wanted to get a feel for, because I don't attend meetings regularly, but I want to get a feel for what the board has to say now that the bids have come in so high. What is the process?
Okay, I think if you just allow us to get to the rest of our meeting, you will find out. Okay?
Fair enough.
Thanks. Yes.
Mary Albert, a proud Mahwah School District teacher. The question I'm asking the board is why, when we have award-winning sports teams, award-winning academic teams, challenging AP classes in which a majority of our students score 5s on the exams, when we have impressive test scores across grade levels and an enviable state ranking, is it that you cannot see that all this takes place because of a highly educated and dedicated staff of professionals who show up every day, who attend to their students' needs while having to add the demands of a state bureaucracy that attempts to undermine best practice by stripping us of the time we need to collaborate with each other and create those amazing lessons, and instead insist that we lose our libraries for 2 months as we test and retest and fill out repetitive paperwork to justify our positions, who have been steadily losing take-home pay for the last 3 years, and yet we still support our students by attending a wide variety of school and community events, often after a full day of classes, followed by providing extra help for many students who need just a bit more attention. Why, instead of falling in with the political mediocrity and the lemmings who have decided to make public school teachers scapegoats for all the state's woes, why would you not break ranks and lead the state by negotiating a fair and reasonable contract with the MEA?
We're having a bit of a problem. They're not really questions related to anything on the agenda this evening. That's the way that the agenda is written. It's the way it's worked. I'm sorry?
Negotiations is listed as committee report.
If they haven't met, then there is no report to give. I chair instruction. We have not had an instructional committee meeting. I don't have a report for this evening. So most of you have been to a meeting before and know that this is the way we've always done it. So I'm going to shut down the public portion at this point because they seem to not really be questions about the agenda.
I have a question about the agenda. I'm Michael Doris. I'm a member of the MEA. I'm looking at the district goals that are going to be approved tonight, which include the Common Core state standards, as well as SGOs and the district evaluation policy. Is the board aware about how much extra time that is taking teachers, that is taking them beyond their contractual hours?
I think that's a question.
We do our very best as administrators, and I certainly do. I'm sorry. We do our very best as administrators to apprise the board with how much diligence and how much time it takes the teachers to go through this, as well as the administration. It is a great deal more than it ever has been. Our hope is that it moves into getting a little bit easier, but with that said, it takes a lot of time. So it is my job and the administrator's job to make sure the board is aware of how much time you put into what it is that you do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Caressa Kaiser, Mahwah teacher. I do see under new business G, there was an agreement between the Mahwah Administrators Association and the Mahwah Board of Ed. I was wondering how many weeks or months of negotiation did that take compared to what we've been going through?
The answer to that is I believe, Ed, we've met with the supervisors and the administrators on 3 separate occasions over a period of
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
And you were able to come to an agreement in that 6 weeks for the administrators?
We were.
Seems a little surprising to me that we've been meeting with you since last September or October. Well, I think that's something to think about.
Thank you.
Robin Canetti, Media Specialist, Joyce Kilmer. In E, we have supporting staff members about positively impacting student achievements. I've been told that the JK Library will have to close for 2 months to allow for park testing, and the high school and perhaps the Ridge as well. I will happily sit if somebody tells me that that's changed. Okay? Well, I'm hoping we can find another solution, since the closing to libraries for students for 2 months is unthinkable to me, and frankly, it should be unthinkable to anyone in education. I won't speak for the higher grades, other than to say that I've never been to the high school library when it wasn't packed with students learning, researching, and reading. I do know that at JK, my kids still love to read. The thought of cutting off their access to the library for 2 months breaks my heart and does them an incredible disservice. The time that they spend looking for books is their favorite part of coming to the library. There will be a question at the end. This is the last time they get to come to the library on a regular schedule. And it's here that we hook them as lifelong readers, one child at a time. Students frequently stop me in the hallway to tell me how much they love the library book they're reading. With all the time and money we've invested in the new language arts program, the students can't get enough just write books in their classrooms. So they come to me during their library period and in between. Now more than ever, with the new library curriculum and the curricula in social studies and science, access to the media center is crucial to complete research projects. These days it's all about the data, so here's some data. Studies show that schools with strong library programs have higher test scores. So there's an irony to closing the libraries in favor of the test. I would be happy to provide you with those studies. In my first year at JK 12 years ago, I had 100 more students and loaned just under 15,000 books. Even though last year was our smallest class, I had the highest per student circulation ever, close to 21,000 books. Since we loan for about 8 months of the year, that's about 2,600 books a month. In just 5 years, that would be more than 25,000 books not being read by our students. I have a solution. Connect the laptops to the network for a permanent fix. I would hope keeping the library open for as much of the year as possible is worth a fraction of the money that's being proposed for the sports facility. While I recognize that athletics are important for many students, so is the library, and keeping the libraries open will cost far less money with a far greater impact on learning. So here's my question. I ask you to please find another way to have students take the tests, and I respectfully suggest that closing the libraries shouldn't be an option. Mahwah is not a district that should close libraries. Thank you.
Robin, I want to thank you for your comments and for the data. It is something we're focusing in on this year, and for the accuracy of the love of learning, and it is because of all of you.
Here's some studies.
Thank you very much.
Study, please.
I will. I promise. It is my understanding, Robin, that Dr. DeToro has spoken to you about the use of your library for park testing
Only that
already.
I wasn't going to have it.
Okay. You aren't going to have it partly because we need to use the computers within your library in order to test our students.
That's the problem.
As far as data is concerned, it's not 2 months, it's 2 weeks. We need to use that library for a week of testing twice a year.
That sounds
in that
better.
each building. So
I
it's
was
not 2
told
months.
March and May.
Okay, and that's
And I
why I just
tried.
want to correct, we
Thank you.
are making use of that. And unless we have other facilities in order to do that, we are going to have children with you.
I will
And
happily
in
give
the
you 2
library.
weeks. Don't take 2 months.
But
We have 20 days in the entire district
Yeah.
to test every student, grades 3 through 11, in March, and then we have 20 days in May. But we're spending a week testing in Joyce-Kilmer in March and a week testing in
That
May.
sounds
Is that better?
1000%
But
better.
we'll continue to study.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do appreciate your points and the love of learning that
Thank
you
you.
give our children, so I thank you for that.
This will be the last question.
Evelyn Slockbauer.
I have a lady back here, Evelyn, sorry.
Sorry.
My name is Tammy Leonci, and I'm a resident of the town. I have a son in 4th grade at JK. I was here previously related to the discussions surrounding the complex, and that is why I'm here tonight, is related to discussions and this whole bid situation related to the complex. The way I was going to present my question was without any knowledge of who was going to be at this meeting tonight. And I will basically pose my question this way, again, without any knowledge of who was going to be here, hoping that there would be a good turnout. But my question is, why is it that you're so willing to have robust and lengthy conversations surrounding a teacher's contract when there's a seeming attempt to kind of skirt discussion, avoid conversation surrounding a $4.3 million proposed complex and now a $6.2 million complex. Why is there not a willingness to have robust discussion about that versus fighting or having robust discussions with the very educators that educate our children? Why is that?
It would be a violation of the law and the rules for negotiating a contract if we were to discuss those negotiations in any detail.
That wasn't the question.
I'm sorry, in public, yes.
That
I was
wasn't
going to take the last question, but we are not allowed, we can make statements.
I'm not talking about the discussions themselves. I'm just talking about really what's obvious, that you're whether it's behind closed doors or in public, you're willing to have discussions about a contract, but you're not willing to have discussions surrounding a complex. And I know that the funds can't be used to fund a contract. I'm fully aware of that. But you're not willing to have discussions or hoping that there won't be discussions surrounding that so that it can just slide through.
I think you're putting words in our mouths about not wanting to have discussions. We've had a majority of meetings. If the if the committees have met, we make a presentation. If they haven't, we have nothing to present.
I apologize if it seems like I'm putting words, or I'm not the most eloquent person.
Oh, no,
in the
I'm not
world.
saying that at all. No.
I don't like coming and having to speak in a public forum. I don't like that.
Okay, thank you.
I am just here to kind of contrast two situations.
And I understand that, but just know our hands are very much tied with what we can say as far as contract negotiations go.
That's not the question.
She's saying, why don't you talk about the complex?
Yes. Why
There's
isn't there
not-
transparency about?
There's no transparency.
Okay, this is... Alright, we're going to move on and close down the public questions because I think...
Excuse me, Patricia Schott, I'd just like to
No,
say one
I'm
final
actually
thing.
going
No, excuse me, this is our meeting too.
Judy that has a question in the audience for you.
Let him speak too.
Hi, I'm Jordan Barron, class of 2018, Mahwah High School freshman. I would just like to know, because I've heard all these things coming from all these people here, talking about all the funds to go to the sports complex. And I'm just going in, and this is only like my 5th day at Mahwah High School, 5th, 6th. And I've already noticed the eating, like for lunch, it's pretty bad. The freshmen, because you know we're new, we have the good stuff. We get the cafeteria. The sophomores and the juniors get the hallways. Why is that fair to people? I understand that they're mature and you should be, oh, they're mature, they should be,
Dr. Schoen
able to
can
deal
answer
with
that
this
question.
stuff. I like to know that, and why all this money also can't go to the other Mahwah schools. Why can't we renovate those instead of staying here and bickering and talking all about the sports facility? And I understand like the whole against the law thing with not being able to discuss these private matters about the sports complex. I'd just like to know.
No, we can discuss that. It's the contract.
Yeah, but okay, so but putting all the money toward the academics too, with building new science stuff, building new math things, getting new textbooks and everything. Why can't we do that to improve people's academic abilities? Because I understand that Mahwah has great academics. I mean, I've been through the school system, I've only been here since 3rd grade. But I mean, we have a great school system. All my teachers I've had my good times, my bad times. In the end, I love all of them. They've been some of the best teachers I've had. And one of them I visit every year since 4th grade. Every year. So she's made such an impact on me. And all these teachers, which I'm still just getting to know in my freshman year, I'm automatically just loving them. And why can't we put these funds towards something positive for them and to do what they do best, which is teach people? And that's all I would like to add.
Your first name is Justin, right?
Jordan.
Jordan. Sorry.
All my teachers are out there. So.
And they will correct me on this.
Way better than others too.
Jordan, Mr. Barron, outstanding job. Your ability to articulate is a direct result of our teachers. Beautifully done. I'm going to start with the first thing you said, which is talking about the eating situation in high school. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
We're going to start there first. There are 967 students in the high school now. Approximately 715 students in grades 9, 10, and 11 are in the building for lunch. We have approximately 35 students each day that are out for some reason or being sick. And our seniors, you know, have an open campus so that they can leave. If we take a look at the high school, there are a number of areas that students have to be able to eat. They've got the upper and lower hallway with about 225 students have the ability to sit over 75 benches. We have our main gymnasium and bleachers with about 451 students. We have the gym patio, seats about 32. We have the center courtyard, seats about 168. We have the cafeteria, 27 tables, seats 432 students. And we have the cafe patio, another 76 or so. There are 967 students in the building. We have the ability with seats to seat approximately 1,384 students.
Their lunches on their laps.
Okay, and they may, please. It may very well be, but this is the situation that we have now, and I'm just explaining that part of the information that I've received is that a lot of students are sitting on the floor.
Yeah, walking through the hallways right near the cafeteria,
Yeah.
it's just all people sitting there.
And we don't want them to sit on the floor, and it's my understanding there have been announcements this year from Mr. Pascal not to have students sit on the floor. And I'm sure, you're right, in previous years. But students choose sometimes to sit in certain areas depending on where their friends are going to be. I bring this up because our lunch changed back in, I want to say 2006 or so. The teachers would know best. When we used to have period lunches and then we went to the block lunches. And one of the reasons that we did that is so that it would be easier to schedule. In addition to, it would allow students the opportunity to do things that they couldn't normally do during their 30-minute lunch clubs. Meeting with our teachers for some extra help. Going to the band room and perhaps eating in the band room during lunch. It provided different avenues for that. So if students are eating on the floor, Jordan, they're doing so because they're choosing to do so, not because we don't have enough seats in our building. Now that doesn't address someone who said they're eating lunch on their laps. Well, if they sit on a bench, then they're going to need to either put their lunch by their side or they're going to have it on their lap. So I just wanted you to know that there were enough seats for the students. In fact, there are probably a few hundred more than what we need. It doesn't mean that they're always utilized. Okay, let me address the second part, and I heard that, but let me address the second part of Jordan's question, and that is the sports facility more important than academics? I've only been here for a little over a year, Jordan, and you are a product of a great school system. You're one of the reasons that I'm proud to sit in this chair. The board does spend a great deal of money on academics, a lot of money on academics, from new textbooks for math, to 300 new computers and 2 or 3 new labs over 2 or 3 different buildings this year, as well as air conditioning for 2 or 3 buildings and boiler replacements and those kinds of things. Although that's not academic, in order for academics to take place, there need to be those facility type upgrades. So although the facility does have a large price tag to it, and that's one of the reasons people are saying, hey, listen, why don't you use that money for academics? That was a choice that the board chose to move forward with. It has since changed, and I'm going to fill everybody in on that. There has been reference to how the bids came in and what are we going to do about that, so I'm going to address that. But the board's interest in academics has not wavered since the discussion of the facility back in July of last year. Did I address most? And my congratulations again, you're a very articulate young man.
If we may move on now with the rest of the agenda, I'd appreciate it. Superintendent's report.
I am. Good evening, everyone. My report this evening is really threefold. The first is a thank you. The second is, by law, I need to talk about our violence and vandalism report, including HIBs, so I will do a very brief 2-slide PowerPoint presentation on that. And then the third piece of my superintendent's report is a facility update and what's going on as far as that's concerned. Let me begin with the first. I want to thank our administrators, our supervisors, our teachers, and our parents, who have set our kids up so well to begin the school year as beautifully as they have. Dennis Fair and I have walked through the buildings on, I guess it was the second day of school. Teachers were dedicated, the kids were smiling. Apparently there were very few criers in kindergarten, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing, keeping in mind that the board did choose on an academic front to go with the full-day kindergarten last year, and that seems to be embraced beautifully, and we're very grateful for that. But the only reason that the kids have smiles and that things are moving along as well as they are is because of our administration and because of our staff. So I want to begin by saying thank you. Now I'd like to move on to some really important stuff, and I need to talk a little bit about violence and vandalism. I'm going to do that from my vantage point and over there, and I'll try to talk a little bit louder than I am now.
Do you want to take the microphone with you? Oh, I can walk around like, yeah, Chuck has one.
Here we go.
Can everybody hear me? No. I'm going to take some minutes more. Can everybody hear me? Yeah. Everybody hear me? Okay. All right, we've got 2 slides this evening for the violence and vandalism report. I must do this publicly. So we're going to begin with the first. The first is a district perspective. I'm going to begin with the big, and I'm going to go down to each of the individual schools. The way we have to report now is twice a year. The first period is September through December. Remember, this is last year. And then period 2 is January through June. I show you both, the yellow being the year that we obviously just finished, as a comparison. And if you take a look at those, there are violence, vandalism, weapons, substance abuse, and HIVs, which are part of the report. Violence has to do with your simple assaults, your threats, and your fight. So just for a little bit of an education, a lot of what it is occurring are called assaults, and that sounds pretty major, but what it simply means is one student hits another student and the other student doesn't hit back. We report that as an assault. One student hits one student and the other student hits back, that's a fight. So just so you understand the difference, as far as, and threats are also included there. We've got vandalism. You'll see that we went down a great deal, but I'll tell you what the vandalism was in the district per school, so you know what's going on with that. We had 2 incidences with weapons at 2 different schools, one at Remco Ridge and one at JK. Both were a pocket knife. Student brought in a pocket knife, and we must report that. We have substance abuse cases, all 3 of those. We did go up in that area. We're at the high school, possession of marijuana, a confirmed case of smoking marijuana, and possession of alcohol are the 3 reasons we had those. So when we go down to HIBs, there was 1 increase. I'll tell you where they were.
on the next slide. Let's go for each of the schools. Betsy Ross, can you hold this up?
Betsy Ross.
Good job. Okay. Betsy Ross, one incident for this incident summary, and that was related to a confirmed hit. For George Washington, no incidences of violence or vandalism. Lenape Meadows, exactly the same thing, which means there are no confirmed hits, no weapons. Okay, let's move on to Joyce Kilmer. Joyce Kilmer had that one possession of a pocket knife and one confirmed hit for the second period. Ramapo Ridge had a big hit, second round. It went from 4 different of all of those categories, it went up to 17, and let me talk about that. 11 of the incidences at Ramapo Ridge were related to violence. In this case, simple assaults, threats, or fights. And I'll go back to that. 4 were vandalism. It's damage to property. It's usually, even at the high school level, it's more graffiti than it is anything else. 1 incident was the possession of a pocket knife, and 1 was a confirmed hit. So the question that this brings up when you take a look at it is, what's going on? And is there an issue? And we've got kids who are either hitting one another or hitting each other back, and we have a fight. What are we doing about this? What's going on? One of the things that Mr. Miller has done is he has decreased the amount of recess time. He's increased the amount of space outside. It's always helpful when kids have a little bit more room. He has offered a quiet study option for students. We were at, Dennis and I, at one of his openings, and he talked with the kids about if you don't want to be outside or you don't want to be with a group of kids, you have another area to go. And the other thing that's done is increased outside supervision. We believe those 4 things will make a difference this year in moving forward. Finally is high school. There was a decrease in incidences at the high school. Those that you see there, the 35, are related to 2 incidences of violence, and they were fights, hit back. 27 were vandalism, 19 was damage to property, graffiti mostly, and 8 were theft. Another student takes $20 from another student or steals a wallet. They were mostly that. 3 were substance abuse, as I said, 1 possession of alcohol, 1 possession of marijuana, 1 suspected use of marijuana confirmed, and 3 were confirmed use. So that is our report for the end of last year. The area of concern for all of us is something that we have a plan in place that we hope to work toward. Are there any questions in regard to anything from the board? No. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, can everybody still hear me? Yep. All right, let me go on to the third part of my report this evening, which is I know is a lot of the reason that a lot of people are here, and that is in regard to our multipurpose facility. As you know, and there have been a lot of postings and a lot of information out there, we did receive bids on September 3rd for the multipurpose facility. The lowest bid was well in excess of our projections. We're now in the process of studying the reasons for this. We're going to be meeting with our architect to determine why this occurred. We will report back at our next meeting, which is October 8th, as to what those reasons were and the reason that the bids were in excess. Assuming that the variance holds true between what the bids were and what our projected amount was, if that variance holds true, this project will not go forward. Woo! After we have made the final assessments, determined what happened and what's going to happen, we'll consider new options and the best use of the funds available. I know some of the questions and comments this evening are, why don't you use the money for this, or use the money for that, or won't you consider this, or academics. Please know that the facility committee has not met since September 3rd, or 7 days ago, in regard to where do we go from here, because we're still trying to understand how we got here in regard to where the bids were. Once they do that, the facility committee will meet and we will move forward. So that is the facility committee update for this evening and where we are as far as the bids are concerned. Okay, that concludes my report.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have no open issues at this given point in time. Mr. Fair?
Just two pieces to report. Can you all hear me? Yes? Okay. We are fully staffed. We filled every last minute resignation. That's the first piece. The second piece, administratively, we've been collaborating to do some preparation with regards to the park that's coming up in March and May to look at the logistics. The third piece is we've been looking at performance matters. I know we've been throwing around the word data. But we want to look at data across the board, K through 12, in a very meaningful way. So we've been looking at that program as an administrative team. And lastly, Dr. Schoen and I have visited all of the schools. For those of you who know me, I'm a secondary guy. So I've seen the middle school and the high school extensively. And you're awesome and you know that. But I had my first opportunity to see the elementaries, and I was impressed. So it was really cool to see our teachers from New Teacher Orientation at work, and I'm proud. So good work, guys. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing? I just want to remind everybody that we did officially cancel the September 24th meeting, as it does come before a holiday. So it is canceled, the 24th. Did anybody have a committee meeting since our last meeting?
I can report on
Oh,
the
okay.
status of negotiation.
Oh, that would be lovely. Your mic is on.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
I said I can report on the status of negotiations, and as you're probably all well aware, there just isn't very much to say. The MEA has declared impasse and filed for arbitration, and so essentially from this point forward, the process or the pathway will be driven by getting that process and procedure followed. From a negotiating committee perspective, our committee is ready to sit and talk to the negotiating committee of your organization. There's been no progress in terms of trying to get that done. So to answer the questions that came up previously about what are the status of the negotiations, or why don't we have an agreement, while there was a lot of discussion between the leadership of the MEA and administrators here, we actually never met as formal negotiating committee. So we stand ready. We can organize our folks to get together, and that's the status of the report.
Thank you. Board member remarks? Okay, I'd like to move. Suzanne, sorry.
Just one, the Model Schools Foundation, I just got the
Oh, I'm
email.
sorry.
Just got the email today that their run is October 19th.
Did everybody hear that?
No.
Mahwah Schools Foundation run is October 19th. I think actually Prima Morphy announced it at opening day.
She did as well, and it's also my understanding that the Mahwah School Foundation will also be at back to school nights, and asking for a brief moment in time to be able to talk to everybody about that and a reminder.
Thank you. Any others? 14A, moved by Peter, second by John. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Salverini?
Yes.
Mr. Wondrikowitz?
Yes.
Mrs. Curry?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan?
Yes.
And Mrs. Shada?
Yes. 15A through J, moved by Rick, second by Peter. There are some changes that have occurred since you saw this on Friday, so any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
15A through J, Mrs. Salverini?
Yes.
Mr. Wondrikowitz?
Yes.
Mrs. Curry?
Yes.
Mr. De Silva?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan?
Yes, and I
Mrs.
need
Shada?
to abstain on G and H.
Staying on G and H.
You good?
Yeah. I'm good. Oh, yeah, no.
Okay. And 16A through K, moved by Peter, second by Rick. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
16A through K, Mr. Salverini?
Yes.
Mr. Andrikowitz?
Yes.
Mrs. Curry? Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mr. Gold?
Yes.
And Mrs. Shaw.
Yes. Public questions or comments? This section of public participation will be limited to 15 minutes. Are there any? Yes.
Hi, Janine Mastrangelo, 20 Flaming Arrow Road. I've asked this at previous meetings, whoever knows me, who's heard me ask this before, I will ask it once again, hoping to get a different answer. You indicate that if the variance on the facility cost still holds true, you will not go forward with the project. Assuming this is true, then why or will you consider remediating items that were identified as priority 1 life safety issues that were identified in the long-range facilities plan 13 years ago that you never fixed, including sprinklers, structural repairs, and hazardous material removal? Thank you.
I think the answer is, again, I think Chuck had addressed this, I think he hit the nail on the head. The LRFP that was done back in 2000 with some slight revisions was never meant to be at least at the state level, was never meant to be an all-inclusive document that dictated everything you did. So I think what's fair to say is that a combination of that and a review of facilities will be done. I'll also add that in theoretically December, we'll be doing an updated long-range facility plan. We're still waiting. The state is developing new software that hopefully is easier both to input and to then get information out of.
Yes.
I can do that. So the question, if everybody didn't hear it, was what constitutes a quote-unquote formal negotiations committee? I mean, historically, it's been the negotiating committees that are organized on both sides. So the board's committee meeting face-to-face with the committee that's organized by the MEA. There was an approach made back in the fall of 2013 to see if a smaller group could create a more expedited approach and try to make progress. I think progress was made, but we did not conclude a mutually satisfactory agreement before the end of the 2014 contract. As I said earlier, we're fully and ready and committed to continue to have those conversations. You know, the emphasis going into that discussion that got started was to try to get basically I'll say an expedited one-year deal to be concluded. That one-year deal was thought to be mutually beneficial in front of potential changes that might come into play in the with respect to the state's approach to the law that requires healthcare premium sharing. I don't have any knowledge about whether or not that law is going to be changed or not changed, and that's something that will get handled at the state level, meaning the state legislative level. So, again, I'll reiterate, you know, we're ready to...
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry. I'm not saying they don't count. I mean, what I'm saying is that there were.
The question is whether they were formal meetings, and the short answer to that is no. I'm new to the negotiating committee, and so I appreciate you standing up because now I have a face to go with the name. We have not, our committee and the MEA's team has not had the opportunity to meet.
Now, and let me respond to that, please. We had 2 members of the board representing for negotiating.
No, you didn't.
Well, that was our whole, for 10 months, yes, we did.
Correct me if I'm wrong, so you approached Janet and me and said, you know, could we try a different model? Can we do something a little different this time? And hopefully avoid, first of all, if you've ever sat in on negotiations, the formal ones, as you know, sitting here for 5, 6, 7 hours is not fun for anyone. So we thought it was a good idea. I think it was an exercise that made a lot of sense. But I think it was very clear, certainly to us, and I think to you too, until the end of the process. We had some very good meetings. We brought good reports back for a long time. When push came to shove at the end of the process, somewhere around April or May, I think I said as we sat in Janet's office, you know, I think we've gone as far as we can go with the 4 of us, because by the time we go back to the negotiating committee of the board, you go back to your team, we often had 3 weeks before we're communicating with each other. So we said, okay, we covered a lot of ground, we made, it wasn't, I don't think it was at all a waste of time, but at the end of the process, even I think you recognized that formal negotiations were going to have to take place. So that's why we were kind of surprised, and I know Janet spoke to you and Regina about saying, you know, what could be wrong with bringing committees together and doing it the old-fashioned way? What's the, and that's where we get confused.
We had gone back and forth and given counter proposals back and forth. You've met with your team, we met with ours. We've gone as far as we could. We even met the last day of school as a formal group with you and Dr. Schoen to see if we could get past where we were. The board denied what we had asked for, and there was nothing left to discuss. That's why we filed for impasse. Our feeling was it was formal negotiations.
And my feeling is it's kind of like when you're in kindergarten, everybody sits around the circle, and the teacher whispers in one kid's ear, and it goes all the way around the circle, and everybody gets a chuckle out of what comes out the other end. Like, no, hold on a minute. When we don't have, when we don't have the opportunity to speak face to face, I don't clearly understand where you're coming from, and you don't clearly understand where we're coming from. And to have Ed and Janet kind of be the go-between, really, I think, is ineffective communication.
Well, perhaps we should have known that before we went all the way to June and wasted a year.
Well, when we got to that point, and again, that informal process was at your request. When we got towards the end, like Ed said, we said, you know what? We should really have formal negotiations, and at that point, that's when wheels came off, and that's where
there was no need anymore. We came to the end. You agreed.
We hadn't begun.
Well, that's not true.
We had never sat down. This is the first time that you and I are speaking face to face. So, being that we're both on our respective negotiations committees, we hadn't begun.
Well, our team certainly knew what was going on the whole time. I'm surprised that the board's team didn't know.
Well, again, without having the opportunity to speak face to face,
you had your representatives there.
No, ma'am.
I respectfully disagree.
Okay, well, again, but then I appreciate that. But again, that illustrates where you were in one place and we were in another place, and since we never had the opportunity to speak face to face, we didn't know that. We're finding that out now. And that's part of the breakdown. That's part of the breakdown. As Chuck said, we are ready, willing, and able to sit down with your team and have a negotiation.
And we've had a mediator assigned, so we certainly will.
Which you guys pulled the trigger, so now we're past that. We're past that point. As I understand it, again, I'm new to this. As I understand it, and I'm new to this, once that's been done, then that's no longer an option, right?
We didn't file for impasse. Okay? So let's not be confused about that.
I'm not confused
okay,
about
good.
it.
So neither am I. So you filed for impasse, and now you want to file for arbitration. Mediator's been assigned. If that's the path you want to pursue from this point forward, then I suppose that's the path we have to go down. But I'll reiterate what I said earlier. I think it could turn out to be productive to get together. You choose not to get together, I can't help you with that.
Well, we did get together.
So terrific. So, you're all here now, no problem with this group getting together, but the other committee can't get together.
We got together and we met and we negotiated for close to 10 months.
And we couldn't agree.
Correct.
Okay,
that's
so
why we
then that's
filed
So what do you want to do?
what's happening is you're talking in the past tense. You're using the past tense. He's offering you the opportunity to go forward, to meet as two bodies and try to get this thing settled. It broke my heart, and I'm not just saying it because you're all standing here. I've been a teacher. I know the playbook that you're using, I know the steps involved, so I'm not nervous about that. But I know you came back and had a paycheck that was less than what you could take-home pay, less you had when you went out.
And that's incredibly unfair.
Yes.
And
incredibly unfair.
we were really excited when they said you wanted to meet informally and get and you asked for the one-year deal, and we said, yeah, that's a good idea, we'll do that. And we went ahead, and everything coming back to us, it's going well, it's going well. And all of a sudden, using your, the wheels coming off. But that's, you know, we want you to get this thing settled. But when you talk in the past tense and don't talk about the future tense, you're going to sit there and wait for an arbitrator. How long is it going to take to get an arbitrator in here? It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen in weeks. Now, if you are serious, get a hold of Central Administration, arrange for a meeting, and we'll sit down with you and talk. But don't sit there with the past tense to pass it, because it's not putting things in their paycheck. It's not helping.
I understand that, Pete, and we negotiated to get this done for close to 10 months.
But Sue, I have to say, because again, in terms of my integrity, which I think at times, you know, you kind of hear what's being said. Again, you approached Janet and me, and of course I don't have Janet here to confirm things. So I think we agree on that. We sat down very informally, we made progress. At the end of it, again, I know I said, I think it's time to move where we're sitting in the same building. Eventually we sit in the same room. And we do the way we've done it for, I've been here for 19 years. The same way we've done it for all that time. We tried, and who knows, maybe the next time the work that we put into that 10 months will pay dividends in the next contract, because that's often what happens when people communicate. And I have to say, I was shocked because especially, I mean, you have an email from you that says, you know, we agree that it's time to go to formal negotiations. And then all of a sudden we go to impasse. And the problem that we have with impasse is, now, instead of having, I'm going to say you have about 8 people on your team, so you've got 8 counting administrators, we have 6 or whatever we have. You have to bring Joe Tondi, we have to get Ray Cassetta. Scheduling that is a nightmare, but it can be done. Now we add another layer with impasse, because now we have a mediator who lives somewhere in New Jersey, it could be Trenton, and it slows things down. So that's the, I just in terms of you're approaching us and saying, look, let's give this a shot. That was the purpose, was to give it a shot. There was never an indication that you, Regina, Janet, and I were sitting there doing formal negotiations. The hope was that at the end of a process, we didn't need formal negotiations, because none of us want to do it.
And I just don't agree with you.
I'll bring out your email.
Yes.
Good evening, my name is Regina Guth, teacher at middle school, and co-chair negotiations with my friend and colleague Sue Dorsa. Couple of observations, not really questions. Ed, you do, of course, when we started the process, I can confirm what you're saying, in that we felt that the path we chose this time, the informal route, would be more productive, more efficient, and less volatile. And it was, quite frankly. And I respectfully disagree with you, however, that we met informally a few times. Our intention was always to move forward in the process, and if we could strike a fair and reasonable bargain, woohoo, we would do it. And unfortunately, the problem is that we don't agree with what is fair and reasonable. So, as we're approaching the end of the school term, we began to let you know that we were approaching the point of impasse. Am I correct, Sue?
You are correct.
Okay. I find it interesting that if we had agreed to your last proposal, we'd all be home tonight. Because you would have gladly accepted the informal negotiations. That sounds logical to me. Over the summer, I attended 2 board meetings. And when it came time to give an update on negotiations, on both occasions, there's nothing to report. That was the message at the public session. And I find that puzzling, because I thought there was plenty to report in the summer. At that time, and there were some of us in attendance at that meeting, am I right, folks? Yeah. There was nothing to report. Not even the very notion that negotiations failed or the MEA is calling for an impasse. It simply was, nothing's going on. Next speaker, and so it went. That's an observation I wanted to share with this body this evening. Yes, it's true that heading into this portion now of formal negotiations is a drag. None of us, this body, we don't want to be involved in this. We're in the business of teaching. We love our jobs. We're dedicated. We're professional. That is going to continue throughout the months ahead. No child will suffer. Every child will get the status quo and beyond excellent education that we've always delivered here in Mahwah. I've been in Mahwah. I've been in Mahwah for 28 years. Those of you who are sitting on the board, I've taught your children. I've taught some of you directly. And Trish, you said it beautifully on opening day. Your daughters got an amazing education. I'm sure they got amazing parenting as well. But this is supposed to be a partnership. Why do you deny us what we deserve? Thank you for your time and attention.
Evelyn
Regina,
Flockner.
thank you very much. I'd just like to respond. Regina,
Sorry.
thank you. And where are you? She disappeared.
I'm here. Jocularity, like the movie. Yes, Trish.
And I meant every word of it on opening day.
I know you did.
And you know I speak from the heart when I do that. Without negotiating in public here, because I'm getting that little seedy area, that we all get to. Would you meet with our negotiating team? Can we try one more time? And please. Please. Say yes?
Let me clarify.
Yes.
Let me clarify.
Yes.
Formally or informally?
Touche.
Another point of clarification. Are we talking with or without mediators?
Well,
you know what? To be honest, Sue and I need to caucus.
Okay.
And we'll get back to you all this week.
All right. Can I just say this? Because this would be my offer. Let's try it without mediators. Let's try it so we can call them and say, back off, go away, we don't need you. I'm putting that offer out there because I've got a daughter who's a teacher.
Yeah.
Come on. No, I'm not a teacher, but I love what you guys do, and we need to do this. So, caucus, pick a time. Please get a hold of Ed. Rick, I want you to meet the rest of the negotiating team. Peter's on the team. Doug D'Angelo, Chuck. I'm not on it this year. Those long nights really nailed me. But if we could do that, I would be. Go. What do you need?
I just want to say again, we're not making any decision impulsively. No. We'd like to caucus, sleep on it, and we'll get back to you by the end of the week.
Okay, I really would appreciate that.
Okay.
We're ready, willing, and able. So please.
I hope so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Evelyn Flockbaugh, 43 Thunderhead Place. I'd just like to say that at the last Board of Ed meeting, you had discussed your self-evaluation, and comments came up about communication and sharing of information with the board. And I think this proves that there is definitely a lack of communication, there's a lack of transparency. I have put in Oprah requests for Roger Pelletier's usage chart, which somebody referred to for this athletic facility, and then I am told by Ed that there is none. I've put in requests for meeting notes, recordings, transcripts, proposals, quotes, anything with regards to options that we asked at the meetings about solar panels, replacement of Building 5, and addition of a new facility to the existing high school building. And I get the response back that there's no documentation. So as a parent, I find it very hard to believe that there was a lot of thought and a lot of deliberation behind building this facility. Thank you.
Yes.
John Denise, 18 Wagon Trail. Staying with the transparency theme. If there was transparency with this board, we wouldn't need to have 25 Oprah requests to get information.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Wait, one last question. If no one else has a question? Anybody else have a question?
I'm supposed to ask that, actually.
Sorry. Well, you know, I'm always raising my hand, but I can't see behind me, and then I feel like I'm jumping on top of everybody. But my last question, which I've asked numerous times, and I'd like to ask this to maybe Chuck, because Ed never answers it. What is the audited balance now as of 6/30/2014 in the capital reserve account, and what is your estimated balance as of June 30th, 2015? Can you tell me?
I do not have in front of me the audit, so I cannot answer your question with the precision, Evelyn, that I know you demand and desire.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Can you email me the answer?
I can do this. I can do this. Okay, so we have to get the variance analysis done on the bids with respect to the proposed facility, because we've got to understand what happened. Okay, once that's done, and then we look at the projects that have been started, and then we should be able to come back and give you a number with respect to the capital account.
Okay, but you should have the audited balance by now.
Yeah,
of this year.
We
Okay,
have the
which you
last
can.
audit, but I don't have it in
right,
front of me. That's
right,
what
but
I'm
you can email me that, correct?
I don't have it in my email. I mean, I'll
Well, you can get the
audit is a
number
public
for
document.
me and
I'm
get
happy
it
to
to
find it
me.
for you. Sure.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you.
I just want to end this meeting on a positive note. I just wanted to thank everybody for coming out, because really what it does, it shows how much everyone cares and how much everyone cares about what a great district this is and how we can keep this such a great district. And I just want to say that when I started on this board 7 years ago, one of my mentors told me there's going to be a lot of rocky road. You're going to see a lot of things you didn't think you'd see, but things always seem to work out. And I just want to leave that thought tonight, that things will work out even though we're going on a little rocky road. And I know it will work out because this young gentleman here is our product, and he's like the hope for the future, and we're going to produce lots more of him.
Second, John, all in favor?
I believe the president's on right